Africa, a continent often reduced to cliches, endless savannas, scorching deserts, and familiar wildlife scenes. But beneath those surface impressions lies a world far more mysterious, far more extraordinary, and far more surprising than most people ever realize. In this video, What No One Tells You About Africa, 10 Facts About Africa's Nature You Probably Never Knew, we're going to uncover the hidden stories of the continent's landscapes. From rivers that defy logic, to mountains capped with eternal snow near the equator, to lakes that can literally turn animals into stone. These are the wonders rarely mentioned in textbooks, the secrets nature kept tucked. So sit back and relax. Fact 1. The Sahara Desert used to be a green savanna. The Sahara Desert wasn't always the endless sea of sand we see today. Between 11,000 and 5,000 years ago, this region was actually a lush green savanna filled with lakes, rivers, forests, and wildlife. Scientists uncovered this surprising chapter of Earth's history by combining evidence from geology, archaeology, paleoclimatology, and even satellite imagery. Beneath today's sand, layers of ancient lake sediments contain fossils of freshwater organisms, revealing that vast lakes once spread across the region. Rock art found throughout the desert tells a similar story. Images of swimmers, boats, cattle, and wild animals depict a landscape that was once green, wet, and full of life. From space, satellite data reveals something even more striking: the ghostly outlines of buried river systems, including the ancient Tamanrasset River. These hidden channels could only have formed under much higher rainfall, providing clear evidence of a dramatically wetter climate in the past. Archaeological discoveries reinforce this picture. Stone tools, pottery, and ancient hearths have been found in areas that are now completely uninhabitable, showing that human communities once lived comfortably where only desert exists today. This era is known as the African Humid Period. So what caused the Sahara to become a green paradise? Changes in Earth's orbital cycle strengthened the African monsoon, bringing heavy rainfall deep into what is now the Sahara. But when Earth's orbit shifted again, the monsoons weakened, rainfall decreased, and over thousands of years the region slowly transformed back into the desert we know today. The Sahara's climate history raises the question of whether it could ever green again. While natural orbital cycles suggest that a greening phase might return in tens of thousands of years, anthropogenic climate change and its unpredictable impacts may disrupt these patterns. Fact 2. The Nile is considered the longest river in the world, and it's not 100% settled. Nile River has traditionally been considered the longest river in the world. According to many sources, its length is about 6,650 kilometers, 4,132 miles. But there is a debate. Some scientists argue that Amazon River may actually be longer, depending on how you define the source and how you measure the river's full course. Some newer estimates place the Amazon's length close to, or even beyond, the Nile. The Amazon and the Nile have been at the center of a centuries-old rivalry over the world's longest title. Saying the Nile is the longest river in the world is still widely accepted, but it's not an absolute fact. The exact ranking depends on measurement methods and definitions. Fact 3. Africa is home to a fish that can live buried in mud for years. Did you know that Africa is home to a fish that can survive buried in mud for years? Meet the African lungfish. When the dry season arrives and the water completely disappears, most animals die. But not this one. The lungfish digs deep into the mud, wraps itself in a mucus cocoon, and enters a special state called estivation, a form of summer sleep. During this time, its body almost shuts down. Its heartbeat slows, its metabolism drops to a minimum. It doesn't need food. It simply breathes slowly using its lungs, and it can survive for months or even years. When the rainy season finally returns and the water rises, the lungfish wakes up, breaks out of its cocoon, and continues swimming as if nothing happened. Fact 4. Madagascar once belonged to the Indian subcontinent, not Africa. Madagascar wasn't originally part of Africa. Around 160 million years ago, Madagascar was connected to Africa as part of the giant supercontinent Gondwana. But then, something dramatic happened. About 88 million years ago, the entire India-Madagascar landmass broke away from Africa and started drifting eastward. Soon after, India split off from Madagascar and began racing north, eventually colliding with Asia and creating the Himalayas. Madagascar, meanwhile, was left behind in the Indian Ocean, becoming the massive island we know today. Number 5. Approximately 40 to 50% of all the gold ever mined in human history has come from South Africa's Witwatersrand Basin. This makes it the single richest gold-producing region in the world. The discovery of gold in the Witwatersrand Basin in 1886 sparked a massive gold rush and led to the founding and rapid growth of Johannesburg, often called Egoli, City of Gold. Over 2 billion ounces of gold have been mined from its gold fields since their discovery in the late 19th century. It's estimated that 40 to 50% of all the world's gold ever mined has come from Witwatersrand. Witwatersrand is no longer the golden heartland it once was. Its annual gold production has fallen dramatically as easily accessible deposits run out, operating costs rise, and the region struggles to compete with major producers like China and Russia. According to compiled data, gold output from the Witwatersrand mines dropped from about 262 tons per year in 2006 to only around 95 tons per year by 2019. Many mines have since shut down or been abandoned, marking the end of an era for one of the world's most legendary goldfields. Number 6. Africa has lakes that are extremely hot and salty. Lake Assal in Djibouti is among the hottest and saltiest in the world. Lake Assal is located in the Tajura region of Djibouti, inside the Afar Depression. Its surface lies 155 meters below sea level, making it the lowest point in Africa. The lake's salinity reaches 34–40%, even higher than the Dead Sea, tilde 33%, making Lake Assal one of the saltiest lakes in the world. In summer, temperatures around the lake can rise to about 52 degrees Celsius. The extreme heat, intense sunlight, and salty air create an environment so harsh that it supports very little biodiversity. Its unusual salinity comes from its position within a tectonic rift zone. Sea-derived groundwater and intruding seawater feed the lake, but it has no outlet. Water escapes only through evaporation, leaving salt and minerals behind and forming thick crystalline salt crusts along the shore. Despite the harsh natural conditions, the Afar and Issa people have lived and worked in this region for centuries, sustaining a long tradition of salt harvesting and trade. Number 7. The Sahara continues to grow every year. The southern edge of the Sahara, known as the Sahel region, has experienced major waves of desertification, most notably during the late 20th century. As the desert pushes southward, farmland begins to shrink. For millions of people who depend on agriculture, this means losing not only their crops but in many cases their homes. When the land can no longer sustain them, communities are forced to migrate, often triggering competition over resources and creating new layers of social instability. At the same time, the environment itself becomes increasingly fragile. Once balanced ecosystems start to break down, and many species of plants and animals are forced to abandon their natural habitats as the desert advances. Number 8. Mauritius is the only place where the dodo bird ever lived. The dodo bird, Rhaphis cucullatus, was a unique species found only on the island of Mauritius. At that time, Mauritius had no natural predators, no humans, and almost no ecological threats. This isolated environment allowed the dodo to evolve into a large, flightless bird, perfectly adapted to a peaceful island life. But everything changed the moment humans arrived. In less than a century after first contact, the dodo disappeared forever, around the year 1681. The reasons were tragically simple. Sailors hunted the birds for food, and the animals they brought with them, pigs, rats, and monkeys, destroyed the dodo's habitat and devoured its eggs. Today, the dodo stands as a global symbol of human-driven extinction. reminding us just how quickly an entire species can vanish once its world is disrupted. Number 9. Lake Victoria is the largest lake in Africa and the second largest freshwater lake in the world. Lake Victoria lies in East Central Africa, shared by Tanzania, Uganda, and Kenya. With a surface area of about 68,800 to 69,000 square kilometers, it is the largest lake in Africa and the second largest freshwater lake in the world by surface area, after Lake Superior. It supports the largest inland freshwater fishery on Earth, producing around 1 million tons of fish every year. About 200,000 people work directly in the fishery, and up to 4 million depend on the lake for their livelihoods. For millions across the region, Lake Victoria is a crucial source of high-quality fish protein. The basin around the lake is densely populated, home to tens of millions of people who rely on the lake for drinking water, agriculture, industry, transport, and even hydropower. But Lake Victoria also faces serious challenges. The introduction of the invasive Nile perch in the mid-20th century devastated many native species, especially cichlids, pushing numerous endemic fish toward extinction. Pollution, deforestation, and land use changes continue to degrade water quality in wetlands. Overfishing and climate variability put even more pressure on both the ecosystem and the communities that depend on it. Number 10. While Africa is the second largest of the Earth's 7 continents, it has the shortest coastline due to very few jutting edges and bays in its landscape. Africa is the second largest continent on Earth, yet its coastline is surprisingly short for such a vast landmass, only slightly longer than that of Antarctica. This is because the continent's overall shape is remarkably smooth. It lacks major peninsulas that jut outward, has very few deep bays or fjords, and shows minimal indentation along its shore. As a result, Africa's coastline is not very wiggly, which keeps its total length relatively small compared to its enormous area. Several factors explain this smoothness. First, Africa sits on an old and geologically stable tectonic plate, meaning it has experienced fewer dramatic collisions and uplifts that typically create rugged, irregular coastlines. Second, unlike Europe and North America, Africa did not undergo heavy glacial carving during the ice ages. Glaciers sculpted deep fjords and inlets in colder regions, but Africa's largely tropical climate spared it from this process. Third, most African rivers flow into the ocean through simple, narrow outlets. Apart from the Nile Delta, this unusually smooth coastline has had important consequences. Because Africa has fewer natural harbors, early maritime trade was more limited, which in turn affected historical contact with distant regions and slowed the development of coastal settlements. Even today, the economic effects remain visible. Continents and countries with long, intricate coastlines tend to have more ports and better access to global trade, while Africa's simpler shoreline offers fewer ideal locations for major seaports. Africa is not just a place on the map, it is a living story written by time, climate, and nature itself. From ancient rivers buried beneath deserts to volcanoes that still breathe fire, this continent reminds us that Earth is far more complex and fascinating than we often imagine. And these are only 10 of countless wonders Africa holds. If this video changed the way you see Africa, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because there are still many stories waiting to be told. And if there's a fascinating fact about Africa we may have missed, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to explore it together.